So we're live.
Fantastic. Well, it's 29 degrees here, and I just decided to go and find a nice, cool spot. But actually, it's really, really warm, and I've got lots of notifications popping up on my screen. But today, we're actually going to be talking about goal setting and what goals are good for your mood, career, and lifestyle, and the difference between short and long-term goals, techniques used by the most successful people, morning routines, time for reflection and alone time. And we're also going to be talking about the best way to achieve success, techniques for achieving a goal throughout the year. So Kim, fantastic, really excited to be live with you again. And yeah, this is a big thing for you. You know a lot about goal setting. So what can I say, really?
Yeah, and I guess the reason the topic's come up is that seems to be one of people's big challenges right now is are we focused on the right goal? You know, I have lots of conversations with lots of amazing people, and actually one of the things that I sometimes find is that what they've not been clear on is where they're really going. And if we don't know where we're going, we're never going to get there. Sounds really obvious, doesn't it? But it's true. You know, we stand there, and I wonder how this resonates with people that are watching, where you go, well, I need to be doing, oh, he's disappeared on me. That's never good. But I need to be able to think about, you know, is it that I want to grow my business? Is it that I want to learn a new skill? Is it that I want to develop a new hobby? Thank you for rejoining me. Oh my goodness, God.
I pushed the wrong button. I'm sorry about that.
I love it. I'm glad to know it's not just me that has technical difficulties sometimes. I think, you know, if we're not careful, if we're not defined on where it is we're going, you know, I was chatting to somebody just this week, and actually, you know, midway through the conversation, I said to them, I hope you don't mind me being blunt, but I think the issue is at the moment, you've not defined where it is you want to go. And if we don't define where it is we want to go, what it is we're trying to achieve, then actually our subconscious brain will start to filter out the things that might help us to achieve it because it doesn't know that it's important. So we've got to be really, really clear where it is we're wanting to go. So, you know, I always talk to my teams and say, you know, it's a bit like saying, you know, we want to go to Edinburgh. How we get there can be lots of different ways. You know, we could go by car or train or walk or cycle, but we need to be clear where we're going, because then actually our brains can start to think about all of those different options to enable us to uncover how we might move from where we are today to where we're going to. And as you know, one of the things we've been doing quite a lot on recently is using models to help people get there. And one of them is the GROW model, which has been around since the 1980s and has been used extensively in corporate life because it's really, really simple. It's deceptively simple, but it helps people to kind of take those steps to move them from first really defining what's the goal, where are you trying to get to, what's your purpose, and why is it important to you? Because if you don't know why it's important to you, when you get to the end of the model, you won't do it. And then the second part is, you know, where are you now? What's your reality? What's your start point? One of the biggest obstacles that people go through is first, they've not defined where it is that they're going, and second, they're not honest about where they're starting from. And if you're not honest on both of those, and actually I've just been having a conversation with a fab other coach, Rajiv, and we were just talking about this, which is if you're not clear where it is you're going and you're not really honest about where you're starting from, then you're destined to fall over. And then you kind of move into the options. So how might you be able to get there? And yes, your scenery is beautiful. And a great opportunity to share about having a goal, isn't it? Like your goal is to be able to demonstrate to us all that you're sitting somewhere beautifully overlooking a speedboat with a pool and the beautiful sea outside that you've already shared with me.
I'm sorry, the speedboat hasn't arrived yet, but it does look like that actually.
I know, love, you share it with me.
It's not my speedboat. It's not my speedboat. But so Kim, how do we start with short-term goals? Because I think that's the thing that's stuck in my mind. And how do they relate to the long-term goals?
So I guess for me, when I'm doing it, I kind of look at where's my long-term goal first, and then actually how do I chunk that down? So how am I going to get there? So if my long-term goal is to enable myself to work part-time by the time my little girl goes to school, so that I can actually still be the person that takes her to school and picks her back up. That's my long-term goal. So to achieve that, actually, what that's a long way off. It's a big, scary, audacious goal that I don't know how I'm going to achieve. So if that's my big goal, then I need to break it down and go, what steps could I take to enable me to move forward towards that goal? So one of them could be to create something that allows me to be generating income from my business whilst I'm not actively there. So that's been one of our short-term goals, which is, okay, can we take a course, take it online, so that actually we can be starting to develop our business, helping more people, helping others to achieve their goals, whilst actually working towards my bigger long-term goal. So I think sometimes it's looking at that and saying, actually, is it in the right direction of travel? And the reason I always do both, my long-term and my short-term one, is I want to make sure that the short-term one that I'm working on heads me towards the long-term one that I want. If not, all that happens is I'm never going to achieve where I really want to get to. So I think sometimes it's looking at that and saying, if that's too big, how might I chunk it down? And you also want to be really specific. So I had a lady that I used to manage many years ago, and she set herself, always used to set herself the big goal. She wasn't very good at setting the small goal. And therefore, all she'd do is every month she'd tell herself off. So her big goal was to rewrite the induction training for a massive corporate organization. And every month we'd sit in a one-to-one, she'd go, I haven't done it yet. Like, okay, did you really think you were going to have written the entire induction training in a month? Well, no, Kim, I didn't. Well, precisely. So let's make sure that we've set the goal in a way that enables you to know if you're on track or off track. The challenge we've got in the way that she'd set her goal was she was beating herself up because she'd not done it yet. But what we didn't know is, was she on track for where she was supposed to be? Had she done enough? I said, so what you want to do is say, if in writing the induction training is your year-long goal, actually what you want to be able to do is have written a module of it every month and have tested it out. That allows you to see whether or not you're on track. So your short-term goal is heading towards your long-term goal, but it's allowing you to make sure that you're holding yourself appropriately to task and not beating yourself up for things you couldn't do, but equally not letting yourself off the hook for things that you could. And Izzy, you're right. So sorry, it's the joy I can actually read them today. So I can not got to focus on anything else. But sometimes if there are many ways to achieve a long-term goal, and it gets confusing when you follow short-term goals, absolutely. And for me, that's why I guess I always suggest to people that you have both, but you make sure that they're heading in the same direction. A good way of looking at it is saying, if this is my long-term goal, can I see that this short-term one is actually going to move me closer to the long-term one? And if the answer is no, it's probably the wrong short-term goal, or it's telling you you're not fully committed to the long-term goal. So it's probably back to one of those, is your goal clear, or is it your reality where you are right now that needs to be revisited?
Yeah, Izzy also said the capacity to follow through or adapt towards your long-term goal effectively is the tricky part. Yeah, I mean, when I've been speaking to you and other corporate leaders, right, like Michael Tobin, there's always this thing of, well, you're going to be disrupted by something. And it's exactly right. It's being able to actually get Ubered along the way is what Michael Tobin says. And actually just change course or change activities to kind of get back on track, right?
Yeah, because sometimes we look at things and we think that that what we need to do is going to be massive, but very often it's just about that little tweak. It's about I think Anthony Robbins calls it the 2 millimeter shift. It's about looking at it and saying, okay, what can I tweak? If we think about all the greatest inventions, I think Henry Ford is allegedly said this, so did Thomas Edison, which is, I didn't find one way to invent whatever it was that they invented, the car or the light bulb. I found 10,000 ways not to. But what they did was their desire, their focus, their belief was that it could be done. And therefore, every time that they didn't achieve it, they looked at it and went, well, what could I tweak? What could I change? What have I learned? What can I adapt? And I think that's that's what we're all here to do. You know, as you know, my nan used to say every day's a school day, and God bless her, she was right. Because then every day you look at it and go, what have I learned today? I've either learned something that I can do again, or I've learned something that didn't go as well as I would have liked it to, and therefore what can I do differently next time? And I think as long as we keep breaking it down to that, it's thinking about what's the biggest problem, and then identifying the simplest solution and taking those steps. Because as Michael Jordan said, it's not about seeing the whole staircase, it's about taking the next step, because for every step we take, we change our vantage point, and something that we can't see the answer to today can come into view because we're moving forward. And I think the view, from my view certainly, is that this is about evolution, not revolution. It's about how do we keep evolving, how do we keep learning, and how do we take those big problems and just edge towards them, whereas revolution is probably too scary and too uncertain and unlikely to result in a sustainable action.
Right. So in terms of aligning with the GROW training and actually using that to, you know, obviously understand what your reality is and then moving forwards to achieve your goal, what's the best thing that people can do?
So I think it's about breaking it down. That's why, you know, for me, it's a model I've used personally for like over 20 years. It's why I train it out so much, because it allows you to take those steps, which says, where am I going? Where am I starting from? What are my options to move from where I am to where I want to be? But not only what are my options, what could be my obstacles? What might stop me? What might get in my way? That might be that the goal's a bit too scary. That might be that I don't really know how to do it, that I'm not certain that I've got the capacity, to Izzy's point, that I'm able to make those changes. I need to be able to break each of those down to understand a little bit more that sits behind it. And then you go to the final bit, which is the willingness and the what next. So what am I committing to do, and how willing am I to make the sacrifices? Because we know that we're going to have to sacrifice some things, whether it's time or effort or comfort, to enable us to move from where we are to where we want to go. It's about being really honest and recognizing that the person you need to be the most honest with is you. It's about it being your goal, not anybody else's goal. It doesn't matter if anybody else thinks it's a good goal or a bad goal, because it's yours. But you've got to want it. You've got to believe in it, and you've got to be willing to put yourself in the uncomfortable position to make it happen. Because if not, you're not going to. Hey, Lisa, lovely for you to join as well. Thank you. Izzy, sorry, I've just noticed one from you as well. So how can we know if we're sure that our long-term goals? It can be difficult to question. It can be difficult to question, and we are supposed to know, but actually sometimes we've just got to give ourselves a little bit of freedom to say we might not know the ultimate answer. What we've got to look at is, where is it that we do know we want to get to? So we might not know what our long-term goal is. You know, I always say, when I look at my career, you know, I knew I wanted to be a hairdresser. I wanted to run my own business. That was my dream. And left school at 15, set my own business up at 19, and thought I'd achieved it. And funnily enough, you know, the world had got a different plan for me. Life loves a plot twist. And so that wasn't to be. And ever since then, you know, I've said life would be great if I had a plan. I've just not got a plan. I haven't worked out where it is that I ultimately want to get to. So instead, I set myself in, what is the thing I can see? You know, what is the bit that, so for me at the moment, what I can see is how I want to be as a mother. And that for me is my most important thing right now. And once I've achieved that, then I'll set myself a new goal. And that might not be anybody else's idea of a fantastic goal, but that's okay, because it's my goal, it's my life. And I get to choose whether or not I'm willing to make the sacrifices to make that happen, because it's important to me. And I think once we get that alignment, once we know where it is that we want to go, then we just keep moving forward towards that thing.
Yeah, very much so. Well, I really appreciate your time, Kim. I appreciate everyone kind of tuning in as well. I mean, I think, yeah, Lisa, just quickly before we scoot off, Lisa says, I can totally relate to that. I've been through plot twist after plot twist and still going. You're so right. it does have other plans for us. There's no doubt about it. And you know, but I think it's important to remember that without actually being committed, yeah, there's that poem, isn't there, by is it Gotha? I'm not sure how to pronounce the chap's name, but it's until one is until one is committed, there is always hesitancy, a chance to turn back, right? And I think that's the final note on this live today, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we've just got to commit to take action and then take the action. And actually, it's why we say we grow most through our pain, because actually we're forced into action. Something's happened, some trauma in some way has happened that we have to move forward from. And it's around saying, actually, how do we take the same level of commitment for ourselves and put it towards something that we want to do?
Thank you, Kim. And thanks, everyone. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks a lot.